Hello and welcome to the Story Engine podcast. My name is Kyle Gray, and today on the show we have Eric Berman. Eric is the founder of the Speakeasy Mastermind, a unique mastermind that combines small local groups and big global events to make sure that the whole community gets everything they need, from powerful tactical practical advice, real honest feedback and support, and being surrounded by people who really understand you and what you're going through. Today we're going to learn his story of how he started out working hard for sweat equity and became the leader of this incredible community. So without further ado, let's turn it over to Eric. Eric Berman, welcome to the Story Engine podcast.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I am excited for you to be here too, and I'm excited to discover some of your magic that I got to experience firsthand a couple of months ago at one of your events. But I'll let the audience hear from you first. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're showing up in the world today?
Yeah, I am, Eric Berman, serial entrepreneur. I've been running companies since. Turns out I figured out I was an entrepreneur after my first company that I just launched out back when I was 21 years old, and so I am just out there continuing to learn, grow, find. I hate to date myself, but 30 some odd years later, trying to find really where I'm meant to be to continue to add my best strengths and value to consumers out there. And I'm excited as we talk a little bit about Speakeasy. I've been told that I'm finally kind of in the lane of where my genius is. And so, it's been something we've done recently, gone all in on this. So it's pretty exciting.
It's interesting that you say you don't want to date yourself, but I feel that somebody who's been in the game for this long and has continued to grow and innovate is a real sign of strength and has a lot to offer. Not entrepreneurship, as I've learned only in 10 years and many times over in that amount of time, is not for the faint of heart and is one of the most ultimate personal development journeys that I've ever experienced. And I believe that you've learned this a lot more deeply and a lot more profoundly. And I imagine that's one of the reasons why Speakeasy is so special. Can you give us the 30,000 foot view of what Speakeasy is and your vision for it?
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're right. I shouldn't be ashamed of that. I'm pretty excited. It's been a long journey to where I am today. And Speakeasy, first and foremost, it's a mastermind, and it's a unique mastermind. And actually recently I was talking to somebody today, in fact, about even going more detail. And for those that don't quite follow and understand, how a mastermind really works, and what makes it different, it's really the bringing together of certain avatars or like-minded individuals to focus on helping each other out, learning, sharing, growing each other together, hearing problems and solving problems as a group, where you get to be vulnerable, you get to build trust, and you're there to really serve and help in the right kind of environment. So when Speakeasy was created, the quick backstory was I was I live in San Diego, and I was surrounded with my client. I have a client named Brian Tracy that I've had for over 20 years. He's a famous motivational speaker, one of my mentors before I got to meet him, in fact. And other people in San Diego were in a similar space as I said, Eric, let's get together and mastermind and brainstorm. And I tended to have the skill set of being more I like to say, the organized entrepreneur. They come to me because they know I'll follow through and make things happen and stay on top of everybody else. And so I sort of was indirectly anointed that leadership role, which was a dinner group that really opened my eyes up 15 plus years later into, wow, I actually have a potential business here. And that really came off the feedback of guests that would show up and say, that was the best sort of 3-hour dinner session mastermind I've been a part of. How do you make that happen? And if you ever think about bringing this to my city, let me know. Love to talk to you about that. So I know I'm rambling and I'm not going 30 seconds, so I'll try to jump in, then I guess we can go deeper. So in a nutshell, what we've done is we've created a mastermind that combines the best of what I think a localized mastermind, where we're meeting once a month, but we're also connecting globally. So we say meeting locally once a month, and we're then connecting globally with a like-minded group of individuals.
One of the things that I love about this podcast is it's an opportunity to really help leaders recognize the brilliance that they bring to this, and even your modesty is very inspiring, and you are very direct and not so rambling or roundabout in this. And it's very, I love the best of local and global. And I'm really curious because there are a lot of masterminds out there. A lot of people make these kinds of offers. And I think that the local and global is one of the unique things about it. If you could go back to that dinner party, or
Yeah.
even maybe more to currently, what do you think the people who are the absolute greatest fits, the best people that have been a part of Speakeasy, what are the problems that they experience in their businesses or with other masterminds that makes Speakeasy a really good fit for them?
Yeah, so let me first, it's a great question. Let me first talk about, I'm going to talk about two things. One is the
Yeah.
avatar of what we're trying to do. And then we're going to talk about what I felt, in any business owner says, what problem are you solving when you're building that thing? So yes, you're right. There are other masterminds, other events to go to, and not to say they're bad, but I feel like everything could be, there's a little tweak here and there. And there's a couple problems I'm solving by what I believe I'm solving. And this is the feedback I'm getting with Speakeasy. So first of all, talking about the who, and one of the most important things you find in running a mastermind is, first question people want to know is who else is in it. Who are the people that I'm going to be spending my time and energy with, and do I want to be there because my time is valuable? So what we've done, and this also solves a different problem. A lot of groups I've been to that are entrepreneurial, and we start with an entrepreneur, are just general entrepreneurs. Like, hey, I'm in a room with somebody who runs a bank, somebody who runs an insurance company, someone runs real estate. We can sit around and talk about issues that entrepreneurs face, but I'm not really spending time getting tactically in the weeds of true types of things that I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So the avatar really goes back to the entrepreneur business owner, but what we like to say is a little bit more marketing centric, focused on business development, sales, marketing tactics. So they're a little bit more in the weeds. So when we get around the room, we're sharing what's working, what's not working, and how we can help each other with referrals, things of that nature. So
Mm-hmm.
that's number one. So what we're solving and what's different from other masterminds, and I'm part of other masterminds. I'm part of a group called EO, Entrepreneur Organization. And one of the things that's magic, I said, what's magic about it? Why have I been in there for 14 years? Well, one of the reasons is because I understand the value of masterminding and being around a group of really, really close people that become your true closest friends, confidants. You get vulnerable. You can share any kind of secret. You can talk about anything. That's power when you have that group, because it's hard to find. It's lonely sometimes being an entrepreneur, where who can you really talk to about the issues you're facing? Who's really going to be there to help serve you and help you out?
Mm-hmm.
One of the challenges I found about the localization of groups like EO or YPO or Vistage or BNI, and all great organizations, is oftentimes you're not spending enough time getting tactical and getting in the weeds, back to the avatar, and spending enough time solving the real-time problems we're all going through. And that's the one thing that I wanted to really get to and do within Speakeasy is, let's walk out of our meetings every time and you're like, oh my God, I just learned 2 or 3 ideas that I can immediately put into action that's going to save my company. I can make a lot of money or save some money, or I can have a new lead, that kind of thing. And that's one of the things we're fostering within the relationship. Now you talk about the global side of things. One of the things that I've noticed is there's a lot of organizations and masterminds that are global but don't have a local connection. A lot of organizations that are local, but they do a very poor job globally. And what I said is, well, now that I have this avatar, and you and I are in different cities, but we're certainly playing in a lot of the same sandboxes and running the same people. Wouldn't it be great for us to be able to have a connection within our community, where you may read a post or a question within our community that you could solve, and I might be able to refer business to you, and vice versa, and then we get to all come together once a year to really have that common connection and share. So part of it is, how do we globally connect people? And one other story I like to tell is I've been in global masterminds, and I've spent lots of money in different groups. And one thing I found, and I'm an extroverted person, you go to these global groups, and even if they're meeting more than once a year, once or twice a year, it often takes you several times, maybe even a few years, to get to really know people at the core level. You tend to go and get in the circle you're familiar with, talk to a few people, check in. It probably takes you a day or a dinner just to even really truly catch up and get past the surface level stuff. But you're not really spending too much time getting in the weeds of business and really saying, oh, let me tell you all about my problems. It's just not set up like that when you go to these global events. It's great. You
Mm-hmm.
learn some things and you kind of rekindle and you make a couple of new relationships, but that takes time and energy. And there's often a huge expense in time and money to go to these global groups. So that's the thing I'm sort of solving on the global side, is to create this more fluid connection of individuals. Long answer to your question. Sorry, but I hope that
Great.
answered it.
No, you're not allowed to apologize for anything. In fact, we're going to play a game on this
Okay,
podcast.
no,
This is
no more
my favorite
apologies.
game. Uh, this is a life changing game. Anytime you want to say the word sorry, you need to replace it with sexy.
Okay,
So
deal.
sexy for interrupting you.
So sexy. All right, got it.
What I love to hear, and the local and global, is the local part we are getting tactical in the weeds, and then the global also sounds like this is a chance to connect with my bigger vision and really connect with the people who are aligned. And it seems like these masterminds can't do both at the same time, which is really, I'm starting to see the difference in how these things are set up. And I've gotten the chance to meet and see many of the chapter leaders who maybe in San Diego or Denver or here or there. And in addition to that, they're getting really tactical and in the weeds. And then at your larger event, people are sharing more of a big vision. And it sounds like one of the biggest problems is it's hard to find really your people, and it takes practice. At an event like EO, if there's so many people around, you have to be very intentional and, dare I say, ruthless in a kind of way to find the people that would create the exponential connections that we all hope for when we are investing in masterminds and community like this.
Yeah, you said it. That was a great example. It's almost like the return on investment, or like sometimes I like to say ROE, return on your energy. I mean, for the amount of time you're spending in a room, it's just like boom, we're getting in the weeds and right at it. It's like let's solve, let's help each other out. What we can do, what can we do? And when you're in other types of organizations, it's just not functionally set up to be able to say, all right, let's all sit around and really like, how are we going to help solve your problems and help each other out? And you nailed it. I love that word you said. It's like you have to be almost this cutthroat, salesy kind of person, but that doesn't even fall within the culture of these other groups because you'd be like, who the hell is this person who's coming in aggressively pushing their thing? Like, so it's got
Mm-hmm.
to be like an organic, long-term play in some of these other organizations, and it feels awkward to be that pushy person. It's almost like you have to have people pull it out of you to feel okay about it.
Conversely, it's lonely at the top, and when you are in groups like this, most people, most of the time, they want to present themselves as, they puff out their chests. So I've got everything cool. It's all good together, and everybody's just pretending to
Yeah.
be so much more amazing or to not have any struggles. And it really takes a long time to get through to that. And I'm curious what your approach is in both the local and the global cultures. How do we get to the truth and the honesty so that we can have real conversations about what it's like in the weeds and help people get real results?
It's funny that you say that because what I find it's almost the opposite. I think people almost relieved because they feel like they could be to that exact point. You said it so well. It's like I think people probably struggle with this creating this facade, not getting into the surface because they want to have that bravado and feel like oh, this is a person I want to talk to because they're doing so well in their business. And what I found in our groups, especially the localized, because people get to know each other. I've had people that are huge names that have said, I've never been vulnerable like this where I'm actually asking a group for help and I'm not afraid
Hmm.
to do this and I'm having a bad year or I just lost a client that's crushed me and here's what happened. What suggestions do you have? Because they know it's a safe space. And more importantly, it's almost like I'm not alone. There's others that are probably gone through the exact same thing I have. And then people will say, yeah, that was me too. Let me show you how I got through it. And I think that common culture and thread it really just holds through when you come to the global event. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, some other businesses or I had my other agency. It's like, yeah, I've had a down year. We sit there and talk about that with other people. Like, how's it going for you? Yeah. Like you're hearing the real stories. Like we know it's almost like if you BS, people can smell it so easily because we're all kind of attached to the same, we're all connected so well.
Yeah. When was the time? We kind of mentioned a little hint of this earlier on, but when was the time when you decided I'm going to leave behind the businesses that I'm building and go full time in creating this community and creating these people? If I understand that right, there was a time where you let go of your own serial entrepreneuring to lead this group of people.
Yeah, and I'll clarify that. I have an agency, still do, but I my time has been really split, and I've started to slowly like put more and more time into this as it's been building out. I have a business partner in there, unfortunately, who's been able to really keep that going. But we're all aligned with we see this as an extremely exciting opportunity to go all in. And if I could snap my fingers tomorrow, I would like to get in here, as much as as quickly as possible. Still use the agency as a use the certainly Speakeasy is a great referral to my old marketing agency, but the reality is this is the lane I want to be playing with, and I think the journey. I look back and to share my own sort of weakness, I would say, or in hindsight, things I wish I was better at or stronger at, is the fear of letting go when it comes to a certain, when you're making certain money in a certain area, for you to cut it off completely and go all in on something. One of the things I probably will look back at my life and say I regret not having taken a little bit more risk to go in head first on taking bigger opportunities. So as now I am still doing that, but I haven't completely cut the cord because that's where still some income is coming in from.
Yeah.
But I'm going more and more in this direction, taking more and more risk, as I spend more time on it, because I'm seeing the results of what's been happening and just the short amount of time we've really gone all in on this.
One of the things that I've gotten to witness in Glenn Ledwell, who introduced us and was a guest on this show, is the very high standards of leadership and, more importantly, self-leadership that he holds himself to. What are some of the ways that you take care of yourself and develop yourself as a leader so that you can confidently preside over such a large group of people who are making a big impact in the world today?
Yeah. So, a couple of things that I stand for. My favorite quote, take it from my mentor Brian Tracy, is "I am responsible," and I live by that. So when I'm working with several personalities, a lot of entrepreneurs, at the end of the day, I could be frustrated. You're trying to, there's things that aren't going the way, and I always look and say, you know what? I'm blessed to be surrounded by so many high quality leaders out there, and I know they all have the ability to form and kick butt. And if I'm not getting the results, what did I do? What can I go back, rather than being frustrated? What could I have done differently to serve them better, to give them more clarity so they could perform? These people clearly aren't in place, and because they're not smart individuals that got to where they are. So I need to do a better job guiding and providing that. That's number one. Number two is, again, I've been confirmed this after doing multiple personality tests, and I've been told this, but I am, so I'll be proud to say it. I'm a rare entrepreneur that is extremely high follow through and pretty organized. So as far as leadership, to me, what's important is when I say I'm going to do something, I follow through and I do it. If people reach out and need help, I'm immediately there to solve and help their problems out. And I'm always first to say, how can I help you? What can I do for you first? And I lead through that and by example. And when I can go out there and do that, and when I can still run the San Diego chapter and be the person still taking the notes and still running it and doing all the things I'm asking all the other people to do, I'm saying, look, this is what I'm learning. This is how I'm doing it. Let's all do this together. We could do it, kind of thing. And those are just a few different examples.
It's interesting. This is one of the things that is unique about you, and I will admit to a deal of respect and envy as somebody who's a very high quick start. And you're just pointing at the blessing and the curses of our own nature, because that's the reason why you have a fear of letting go of doing something bigger. You're sticking with the commitments that you've made at the same time, and that's also one of your strongest qualities. And I feel that within most of us, this light and dark of who we are is a very interesting to see unfold.
That's right. The other example is my high follow through and me always jumping to serve others actually comes at an expense of me and my own time, where I end up spending a lot of time saying, okay, I've taken care of everybody else's things and responding. And I hate people waiting on an answer from me. And so I tend to let that control me more than me, like getting enough time to work on things I need to work on, which means that that's sort of the late night stuff that I'm finally able to get to when there's less distractions. But so it's like, and I was thinking about that the other day. It's exactly right. So it's a strength and a curse. It's not always the best thing, but it's just the way it sort of my mind works.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite ways, not just to do your own work, but to really, how do you relax and take care of yourself? How do you reward yourself when you're successful and recharge your own battery?
Well, that's a multiple phased answer because first of all, you said when I'm successful, and I think there's again to make a definition of successful. So
Great
that's a tough
observation.
one because so I guess we're still striving to say what is success, and I feel like I've had some successes along the way. I certainly haven't hit certain huge milestones that I'd like to say, okay, I've now officially can take a step back and pat myself. I push myself pretty hard. To the other part of that question. I think it's a lot of it is I'm very organized in the way I structure my day, and I feel like I stay in control by keeping myself organized. So I feel like I got what I needed to get accomplished today, taken care of. More importantly, I've already set myself up for success and organized my day for tomorrow. Time to switch it off. Go spend time with my family and my two beautiful new kids, and I can kind of like check out, knowing that things are in control for the next day. And that's sort of something else I tend to teach other entrepreneurs too. It's like I feel like the degree to which you're in control with what's happening ahead of you allows you to be less stressed because you know what's going on the next day or two.
Totally. And something that I really admire in you this is an interesting thing that I've been seeing and unfolding is any entrepreneur or coach or leader that pretends to be entirely past the problem that they solve is probably worth questioning in one
Yeah.
form or another. And your willingness to say, I don't feel successful. And in my same way, I help people uncover the beauty of their own stories. And I have a hard time giving this medicine to myself. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that makes you a great leader for these people because we are in the trenches together. We may have a few extra tools in our tool belt, but that's why we're in the trenches. And that's why someone would want to listen or follow us because the people that have it all together and are perfect are kind of they are not attractive or polarizing to the ones that they really want to serve. I would love to hear in you maybe an element of the global. Was there a time where you were traveling somewhere or uh, moving around on a plane or something, and you met somebody who was a part of the mastermind or talking about the mastermind, or when were some times that you were surprised by this community that you've created?
I think I get most excited. I really that is probably one of the biggest rewards, to be honest. It's the third hand stories you hear, whether I hear them on a ran into somebody in an airplane or I just hear them from talking to people. It's the people that say, "I'm so glad." It's also the referrals they give, right? It's the this is the best mastermind I've been a part of. It's the highest value. I'm getting more ROI out of this group than any other group that I've been to before. And I've spent lots of money on different masterminds. It's those kind of questions and quotes I hear from people. Or I just connected with this person in the community and it made me all this money, this one deal. Or these kind of things. And knowing in the back of my mind, that's a big sense of accomplishment because what we've kind of built here allowed two people to have a really good experience and it increases and it helped their lives, both of them. And I was a part of that and they didn't know who I was. That's like one of the best, coolest things for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's stunning. I love it. I knew there was going to be that, and I imagine we could find dozens more of those if we had the time.
Yep.
I would love to explore more of your history and more of your moments. We've started to uncover some of the key unique ingredients that it's lonely at the top, and it's good to have people that can actually help you create tactical things to move yourself forward and who are willing to be vulnerable and open and honest with where they're at, which is the only way that we could actually find the tactical things to move your business forward. Can you remember a time where you were experiencing these things in your own businesses and your own journey before Speakeasy came, when you were enduring the loneliness at the top and looking for community?
Yeah. There's a couple answers to that question. I mean, my career was really interesting. When I was 21, I started started a company that was four of us that turned into 400 people, uh, raised close to $100 million. I thought I was going to be retired at 27 years old. And it was really the first social media company out there.
Mm.
And I had an incredible journey of in my 20s where I sort of got I like to say I got my MBA on steroids, being in the trenches. And what the hell do you know when you get out of college? Like there's so many life skills they didn't know anything.
Hmm.
And so I think just even there, it was lonely being this 20 some odd year old where I had a lot of friends out of college and like, what the hell are you doing, Eric? And like, they couldn't even relate to like the kind of world I was in, sleeping in
Mm.
the office every day and all this kind of stuff. And then, then as I evolved out of that, and that story unfortunately ended with us, missing out on the IPO by 2 months during the first market crash of 2000, and me going from thought I was going to be retired at 27 years old to having lost everything in that company after 7 years of 7 day week works weeks and all that kind of stuff. But that really I think built a strong foundation of me to get pretty scarred and hardened from the business life
Yeah.
and continued my entrepreneurial path. And frankly, that went from me not being the guy with the vision, but me turned me into having confidence to then become an entrepreneur and be my own visionary and have ideas and know that I can go do some cool things with it. Um, and then along the way, I think having found myself into groups like EO, I started to realize, okay, friendship group started to evolve into more serious types of entrepreneurs, and that's why I went from, hey, in my late 20s, early 30s, you go out, a lot of your friends are people that are out and having a good time out in the clubs and the bars and all this kind of stuff. And then you start to
Hmm.
realize, well, what kind of people do I want to be hanging out with? Like it's you're not having the same kind of conversations there
Absolutely.
as others, and that was sort of the evolvement over time and into doing more and more entrepreneurial type companies and running more businesses.
I'd love to redirect you back to these 20 something years with your friends out of college. You gave me a good kind of broad scene. Is there a Tuesday afternoon, maybe when you were preparing for this IPO or you're in the middle of a big push and maybe you're talking to some of these college friends and they just don't get you, or I would love like a very specific day that exemplifies a lot of what you were saying here.
Um, Actually, I'm going to go back into call it year two of that journey.
Good.
And it's a conversation I had with my mother, who um, graduated from a good school, good college, UCSD, had a really good degree there. Could have pretty much had any job opportunities I wanted. Yet, what I didn't share with you earlier is that I worked the first 18 months without a salary. And I was sitting there, sweat equity and learning the world about equity and just saying, don't care. The company didn't have enough money to pay. I'm just going to go build something.
Hmm.
And one day my mother said, my mom had a great relationship. She's like, I'm really worried about you, Eric. What's going on here? We just, got through college, did all this. I can't understand. You're draining every dollar you saved and you made, while you were, working through college and all that kind of stuff. What are you doing here? Does this really make sense? And it wasn't just her; it'd be friends and everybody around me, kind of wondering what the hell is this guy doing? Not even, not taking a dollar. Is he crazy? And the answer I always had was, "Are you kidding me? I'm doing amazing. This is the best experience I could ever have. And by the way, do you think I couldn't go leave and get a job tomorrow for twice as what I could have gotten out of college with the experience I just got?" Like, so
Hmm.
I was feeling great, but it was hard for people to relate and understand, whether that was family and friends, what I was going through. And it was just actually just building a lot of experience and confidence. And I wasn't worried about it at that time and finding myself. So that's kind of the first story that came to mind from your question.
Yeah. And I'm curious, and I agree with you in being misunderstood. But maybe was there even a little bit of an element to that? Like if you had a community of people who understood and entrepreneuring, they might have given you some advice of, hey, well, maybe this company isn't treating you as well, or maybe there are options that you have, or there are things within this. Could you have found your way to accelerate your success with the right people in there?
I think you certainly at that time there was advice from all different directions. There's
Yeah.
certainly people that said that, you could go this path, that path. And I was pretty probably stubborn, bullheaded and I was also like wanted to see this through at that point. And there was this exciting vision that we were going after. So it was sort of hard to
Yeah.
pull out of that, but I certainly heard it from every different direction of what was going on. And then as things actually started taking off, all of a sudden the conversations were changing, like, good for you and having gotten this far and all that kind of
Mm,
stuff. So
hmm
it was kind of
hmm
neat then.
When you were having this conversation with your mother, was it in person or over the phone?
In person.
Where did it happen?
What's interesting is there's rare. I look back and I have a bad time remembering a lot of things from childhood and others. And I just remembered this. I remember sitting upstairs and I think I was in my brother's room for some reason. We were just talking and having that conversation. And I remember it pretty vaguely because it was such an emotional, like she just was in tears and couldn't understand. And she was really upset. It was really bothering her. So it was just interesting to remember all that.
Give me some kind of detail about your brother's room. Were there childhood relics? Was there a certain smell? What
Don't
about?
don't remember. Don't. I just remember a bed. I don't remember much of anything else, which is
Okay.
weird. Ironic story about my brother, but however, just to kind of finish the story,
Yeah.
he was one that was actually encouraging me because he went off and got a what he called boring CPA job at one of the big six firms at the time, and he was actually lonely, bored, and driving himself crazy. He ended up leaving that. Took almost, I think maybe I gave him the courage to do that what I was doing, and he went off and started this little company that turned into become MySpace. So my brother ended up being a founder over there, and he ended up with the big win on the social media play.
Wow.
So older brother always trying to one up younger brother, and he got me on
Dang
that
him.
one.
Dang him. He built the social media company.
Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah,
Uh, all right. Let's go to the opposite frequency of experience. You are surrounded by people you feel you can be open. You're getting real tactical, good advice that's precise, and you feel like these are my people. When
so no, I'm missing the question. Sorry, I'm missing the question on that. Yeah.
I want you to find a similar moment of your life in the future now
Oh, in the
of
future.
of
Okay.
this free, or like not in the future relative to the story we just told. So
Okay.
it's still in your past, but a time where um, opposite of I'm getting directions from somewhere else. I'm feeling lonely. I'm pushing
Yeah.
myself really hard. When was the time where you felt served? You felt in community.
Yeah.
You felt connected.
Yeah, I think really it was twofold. It was one, these masterminds we started doing 14 years ago. With my great friend John Assaraf, and I got to give him credit for actually helping me organize this. A combination of that and probably EO, which was the first time that was a little bit more structured, and the way they gave feedback, I'm like, okay, this is interesting, and I'm starting to get some really good feedback and sound advice, and they use a certain format called Gestalt feedback, which is basically feedback off of experience shares versus
Mm.
the you should feedback. You should do
Yeah.
this, you should do that. So it was interesting for me to be around that and realize, and that's kind of the impetus that leads me to where we are today with Speakeasy is like the power of being surrounded by really good groups like this. What was tremendous, and I'd even be the guy that organized friends and that were not even in EO or Speakeasy, and just my other buddies. And a lot of them were entrepreneurs and others, and we'd have fun dinner groups to share and
The
and
dinner
hang
group.
out. So I
Yeah.
just yeah
This
yeah.
is
So just I
this
love
is
yeah
mhm. Sorry, this is the word that really you said this earlier on, and it sounded like there was a specific dinner group, or maybe there was many dinner groups that would
yeah
eventually become Speakeasy. What was the first dinner group?
yeah. The first one was John Assaraf. He came to me
Okay,
and
great.
said, hey Eric, let's mastermind, and of course I didn't really understand the level of probably what he meant by mastermind. He was wiser than I am when it came to that.
Hmm.
And we talked about structure, and then that's evolved over time. And it really is the ability for us to get together and have an attitude and this maybe is part of the culture, have an attitude of give first, give often. The answer is always yes to each other. Let's not no bullshitting, and let's leave the egos at the door here. It's not about, like you
Hmm.
said, puffing your chest out. It's kind of the opposite. And so that was some, I got to give him a lot of credit as always a good friend and a mentor to me to help on
Where
those groups. Yeah.
where was the dinner group held?
So we would hold it at different locations, where we would
But this first
sometimes,
one,
gosh,
the first one first.
first couple might've been actually at an office. And I
Mm.
remember, God, I mean, we'd have it at Brian Tracy's office at the time. I remember my buddy Stephen Cox had a great big office. We'd have it there. We'd have it at John's, and then we'd also try to go to restaurants. But the restaurant quickly faded away as we got inundated with the distractions of the pouring of the waters and the constant interruptions of can I get you something
Ooh,
from the
I
waiters who
like
were
that.
trying to do their job. So that was so that got ixnayed pretty quickly, and it turned into dinners, which were sort of ordered dinners into somebody's office, or eventually houses and offices.
Are you ready to hear your story?
Always, of course.
I'm worried about you. My mother said to me as I was on my entrepreneurial journey. I'd graduated college and had the prospects to get any job I could have ever wanted. And me going out wanting to be a part of a company and build something amazing. I was working for Sweat Equity, but I was working for my dream, and I knew I was onto the right thing. And somehow here, sitting in my brother's room, across from my mother with tears in her eyes, she's afraid for me. And not just her, but most of my friends, my college buddies that I had a great time with, that I really loved. Nobody seemed to understand what was going on. They didn't even know how to ask questions about my life, much less give me advice on it. But the advice was coming from every direction. And here I was, I thought I was going to retire at 27, but I found myself working harder and harder and going on a wild goose chase of the ups and downs in the startup world that would lead me every which way. And everyone around me just asking themselves quietly or sometimes out loud, is this guy crazy? I would think, are you kidding me? I'm doing amazing. I'm misunderstood. I'm not in the right place. And it would take many years and many failures and many costly and painful mistakes to really figure out what was going on. But over the course of time, my friend group started to evolve. The people I surrounded myself with started to evolve, and I started to see the value in people that really could advise me. I went from having this advice in every direction to starting to focus in on just listening to those who really knew where I was and what I needed. And I can remember starting to gather these people for dinner, and some of my greatest mentors of my life, who I'm still so grateful for, like Brian Tracy and John Ashraf, saying the words to me, let's mastermind. Now, at the time, I didn't really understand what this word meant or what it could mean for me or so many other people. But we laid out a few ground rules for these dinner meetings that we started to hold. We wanted an attitude of giving first. It wasn't about trying to take or sell or make offers, which everyone else in the world seemed plenty happy to do. We also wanted people to speak from experience, not should, not giving advice or pretending like they had it all together. I wanted to have real conversations because I knew that a lot of the times there were families, there were millions of dollars, there were teams, there was so much on the line, and pretending that everything was okay and fine was really wasting everybody's valuable time. At first, we started having these dinner meetings at restaurants. It made sense, right? But after a little while, because of these ground rules and because of the quality of conversations that we started happening, even something as simple as, can I pour you water or can I get you another appetizer, became a real distraction for us. And we started moving to offices and homes and dinners, and the distractions quickly started to fade. And over the time, my businesses started to change and evolve. Through the advice and support and collaboration and introductions that came from this, I started to understand myself and my strengths and what I could bring to the table, and became a better leader in my business. I was able to take what I learned from my business and those wins and bring it back to these dinner groups time after time again and celebrate with people who understood me and really saw the real me. Not just this successful, shiny entrepreneur, but the moments of hardship and the moments of care. And it was in one of those dinners that I realized that this process could help so many more people. This could uplift so many creators, leaders who needed this connection with community and who were surrounded by people who thought that they were crazy for holding on to a vision that had yet to fully unfold. And that's why I have started the Speakeasy Mastermind. And that's what I'm here to share with you today. What do you think, Eric?
That's pretty damn good. You got some good magic going there.
I appreciate it, particularly the word magic. And it's only possible when I get to create with other brilliant people like yourself. And I appreciate you showing up and playing full out with me today.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome.
To close things out, and now that we're tapped into your brilliance and this audience has had a chance to witness you in this way, do you have any closing thoughts for us today? And where could we go to learn more about you and the Speakeasy Mastermind?
Gosh, closing thoughts. My only closing thoughts is my head is spinning with thoughts based on your story. I'm like, okay, like this is pretty, I'm like, wow. And like my other thoughts is like, how do I like get you to like wharf into me on stage and say exactly what you said there with, a couple small little tweaks, but other than that, I'm like, damn, no. So those are my thoughts. So I appreciate that. I think more than anything, it's good to, I'm always learning and trying to understand, and just this whole process is pretty eye opening. I mean, obviously this is a gift you have, to be able to tell a good story, but how do you able to quickly pull out of that and then be able to quickly craft it on the fly like that is pretty damn impressive. But it also shows the importance that all of us, I think, and for anybody listening, the importance of a story. We all love stories, and if you can create that, that's going to create a lot of interest and curiosity, I assume, from an audience. So it's you're opening my eyes up and growing in this area. I immediately also go to how can I help serve you more and more through community, but we can talk about that later. And speaking of community, certainly to find more about me, my LinkedIn, or really most importantly, speakeasymastermind.com is where I'd love to see everybody come check out. So it's just that simple, speakeasymastermind.com. And we have, information on there. I'll be changing my story in the About Us section probably fairly soon now.
All right.
So look for that. And yeah, I'd love to, we also have opportunities for people who are, not in one of our chapters yet to just join the community globally and just be a part of something special. And hopefully we get a chance to meet.
Absolutely. Eric, I've had the honor of personally getting to see the many brilliant people that you have put together, and highly recommend it for anyone listening in today. Thank you so much for joining us on the Story Engine podcast.
Thanks for having me.